Hello and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today's video going to be a wee roundup of Celtic season so far as we finish phase one. We've gone through the pre-season into the second month of the season, just about to go on the international break. So I thought it'd be a good time just to summarise the summer and the first few weeks of the season and look a wee bit towards the future for Celtic over the rest of 2024 going into 2025. Before we do crack on with that video, please do, if you are new to the channel, not yet subscribed, please do click that subscribe button. Keep the numbers pushing up towards 1,000 would be great for the first Champions League game against Slovan Bratislava in a couple of weeks' time. If you do like the video, please do click that like button. And as usual, comment section open for pleasant, polite debating points, thoughts regarding this video, the topics in the video, and any other burning Celtic issues for a nice chat, debate, discussion amongst like-minded Celtic fans. So, as I was saying, we've now gone through the pre-season, we're going through the start of the season into the start of the international break. Celtic have 4 league wins out of 4. We've got 12 goals for in the league, none against. Adding in the 5th match of the full season, which was the 3-1 win over Hibs in the Scottish League Cup. It's been a pretty much perfect start to the season. In those league matches, we've beaten 2 of last season's top 6 challengers, Kilmarnock and St Mirren. We've beaten our biggest rivals, Rangers, and caused them quite a humiliating, dispiriting loss that's created massive problems for the Rangers board, club, management and players, with a lot of fan revolt on the streets of Glasgow, plus a lot of social media criticism, with pretty much only Philippe Clement and Graham Souness thinking that Rangers had an okay game on Sunday, with lots of their ex-player pundits such as Alan McCoy's Chris Boyd, Barry Ferguson and many, many others, recognising that Celtic are a long way ahead of Rangers and that there's a gulf or a chasm rather than a small gap between the two clubs currently. Anyway, enough of Rangers, back to Celtic. We've also had a Champions League draw that is pretty much as good as can be expected. We've got nice opening fixture against Slovan Bratislava, a game that we should manage to win if all goes to plan. We then got probably our 2 most difficult matches, the away games against Borussia Dortmund and then Atalanta. We then have our hardest home fixture against RB Leipzig. However, I think that's the team that we can take on at home and get a draw from at least. Following that, we've got winnable home matches against Bruges, Young Boys Bern, a very winnable away game against Dinamo Zagreb, and the final fixture of that Champions League 8-match league phase will be against Aston Villa away from home, and that's also a game I think Celtic are perfectly able to go and get a point away from home. And so I think with a mixture of our home wins against Bern, Bruges and Bratislava, and home point against RB Leipzig, and a win or draw against Zagreb away from home, and a draw against Aston Villa, I think that's going to put us through to the playoff phase to get into the knockout phase. And I think that would be a success for this season for Celtic. And I certainly think if we can keep this squad pretty much together for another couple of seasons, we're going to be into that knockout phase of the Champions League either this season or next. That's also assuming that we add an extra player of quality in the winter window and a couple of extra players in the summer window to further increase the quality and squad depth. Plus, we may need to replace players such as Rio Hatate, who may well be moving on next summer, although maybe with a good successful season, successful Champions League campaign, maybe we can convince Rio to stay for another couple of seasons. I think one of the other things is Celtic have had a good, successful transfer window. We've brought in several good players, a couple, I think, of potentially very good players. We've solved the goalkeeping problem that we had with Joe Hart retiring and there being very little in the way of backups at the club. I think we've got a world-class goalkeeper in Kasper Schmeichel for a season or two, and then we've got a very, very good young keeper in Viljami Sinisalo, already full Finnish international of several games at the age of 22, 23. And I think he could be a great goalkeeper for Celtic in the long run, with a couple of years understudying Schmeichel and getting a few games here and there, such as League Cup matches, cup matches, etc. We've also at least temporarily fixed the left back problem, bringing in Alex Valley, and maybe with a successful season, a few medals, good Champions League campaign, we can maybe convince him to come back to Celtic for a second season on loan, or maybe even see what his transfer release clause payment is to see whether a permanent purchase is an option. I think we've also upgraded at centre back. I think Austin Trusty is an upgrade on Liam Scales, although his performance against Rangers was very, very good. I think Scales is a very good squad player, and I think more often than not, he's going to be a player who can step up as and when required if there are injuries, suspensions, and losses of form. I think Greg Taylor is a good left back in Scottish terms. I think Alex Filey is an upgrade. I think we've added a very good Scottish midfielder in Luke McCown. I think he's going to be a big surprise to many people this season as to how well he plays for Celtic. We've got a very, very promising, highly skilled young player in Arnie Engels. I think he's going to be a potential superstar and certainly could give Celtic um, 3 or 4 very good seasons, helping us domestically and in Europe. And I think coming behind him, we've got Paul Bernardo, a player with an awful lot of ability and even more potential, who showed against Rangers just how good he can be. And I think Odin Thiago Holm is also going to be an important player coming through over the next year or so for Celtic. And I think we've also up front, we've got a very good, capable backup to Kyogo. Adam Ida, I think, is a very good striker. He proved last season he can certainly score in Scotland. He scored at over 1 goal every 90 minutes, given his mix of starts and coming off the bench. He's shown that he can score at international level, and I think he could be a player to score us plenty of goals in Scotland and goals in the Champions League as well. Good for a starter and good for coming off the bench, and does give us the option of playing 2 up front as and when required. I think we've moved on a few players who were not going to get a game under Brendan Rodgers, people such as Mikey Johnston, Gustav Lagerbielke, Bozen Lawal, Sead Haksabanovic. Juan's going to come back from Hibs much improved. We've also sold on Matt O'Reilly, who had decided that he wasn't happy to stay at Celtic any longer and had been desperate for a move all summer. And I think we've got an extremely good amount of money for him. With a package that would appear to be approaching £30 million altogether. So, all in all, I think a very good transfer window. We've brought in lots of players of high quality, a couple of players who are going to get better and better and better, a potential superstar in Arnie Engels, and we've moved on several players who were out of Rodgers' plan and sent out a few players on loan, most notably Kwon going to Hibs. We've also made quite a big profit in the transfer window, and I think we've invested the Matt O'Reilly money and the money we got for O and the others very sensibly in the players were brought in. I think also over the last couple of seasons, we've done a great job of reinvesting the money we've been making in the Champions League and domestic trophies back into the squad. Over the last couple of seasons, we've given very big pay rises to people such as Dyson Maida, Kyogo, Rio Itati, Carter Vickers, and Liam Scales got a big upgrade. And I think in the near future, we'll also be giving Greg Taylor a new long-term contract, probably 4 years or so to take him up to 30. Plus, also, I would have thought giving James Forrest another season or two, because Taylor and Forrest contracts are up at the end of this season. And I fully expect that Kasper Schmeichel will add on an extra year or two to his current 1 year with 1 year option deal at Celtic. So all in the things in the garden are rosy, I think. And as I've said in a few replies and comments, I tend to be a very optimistic person in terms of Celtic, and tend to see things as being our glass is nearly full rather than our glass being a wee bit empty. Maybe I'm looking too much on the bright side of life at the moment because things are going so well for the club and for me in terms of this new wee project in semi-retirement. So maybe I am being too optimistic. Maybe I'm being too bright and cheery. But I think we've got an excellent set of players. We've got a good deep squad. We're a financially very well run club. We're a club that has got good amounts of money in the bank, if required, to expand the stadium, reward the players by extending and increasing contracts. I think we've also got the ability, as was shown in the last transfer market, to step up to a next level in terms of fees, i.e., going into double figures of millions for players, and giving those sorts of players a long-term contract to keep them at the club and to reward them for success. That contrasts for me quite markedly with our big rivals across the city. They are financially in the doldrums, struggling to keep experienced players, struggling to bring in any players of real quality, and struggling to keep players on high salaries. And I think Celtic should push on and on and on and make that gap between the two clubs bigger and bigger, and have an even longer period of domination in Scottish football, which also will help us get stronger and stronger, breaking through the glass ceiling into European success, as well as overwhelming the home success of doubles and trebles and 12 league titles out the last 13, all of which are wonderful for a Celtic fan of 50 plus years who had so many years of coming second, third, fourth, no cups, and no progress in Europe. So lots and lots of things in the garden, nice and rosy, and a few things that can get better, and I am fully confident they will get better. So, as I was saying at the start, we're now on the international break. Some of our players are away off jetting around the world. Players such as Rio Tati and Daisen Maida off as part of Japan's World Cup qualifier squads. We've got Austin Trusty, Luis Palma, and Alistair Johnston all the way off to the Americas. We've got players going all around Europe, such as Sinisalo, Schmeichel, and Engels, and Anthony Ralston, because as was broken today, both Greg Taylor and James Forrest have pulled out of the Scotland squad. It's presumed they have had minor knocks from the Rangers match, and also Carter Vickers wasn't considered for the international squad because he had some form of foot ankle injury against Rangers. However, it's fully expected that Carter Vickers and Taylor and Forrest will all be fully fit and ready for the game against Hearts a week on the Saturday coming. So hopefully all of the players who are jetting off around the world will all come back fit and healthy, and after a day or two recovering from any jet lag, back into the squad to play against Hearts, and then the game against Slovan Bratislava a few days later. So that finishes things off for today's video. With us going into the international break, my plan is for the week 10 days where Celtic news might be a bit more sparse, is probably doing a video every couple of days or so, maybe also doing some videos relating to great players of Celtic's past, some of my favourite players, having been watching Celtic for all these years, plus obviously doing the daily trivia quiz, which a lot of you are enjoying and finding challenging at times, and certainly often provoking nice old memories for us older fans too. So just to finish off, before we go, please do, if you are new to the channel, please do consider clicking that subscriber button, pushing things up to the magic 1,000. That would be wonderful. If you do like the video, click the like button. That does really help with YouTube analytics. And as usual, do feel free to use the comment section for pleasant, polite debating points, thoughts regarding this video, the topics raised, and any other Celtic issues on your mind. And so until the next video, goodbye and hail, hail.